down. We the talk around town. Alex threw the ball to Smokey for a touchdown. It's fourth down and you don't really want no more. We've been winning from the door. You should check the scoreboard. Check the scoreboard.
Welcome back to another episode of the Scoreboard. We're looking at Week 15 in the NFL. Good slate of games here in Smokey. How are you doing?
Oh, I am good. I am better than... I really don't know who to pick this week. It's either the Chargers or the Texans because both of them feel like their season is over with their starting quarterbacks going down. But I say, hey, join the club. Half of the league, if not more, is on their starting quarterback. And at some point throughout the season, we may have seen 3/4 of the entire league go to their backup quarterback for some reason or another. So it sucks. The Chargers, you kind of knew your season was in the downward spiral already, but the Texans, you were on that high rolling trip to stardom, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, but it's unfortunate that you lost C.J. Stroud. Let's hope he gets back and it takes you to another run next year. Sorry, not going to happen next week. Next season, but as for right now, I feel bad for you. How are you, Alex?
I was going to go Chargers fans as well, but thing is with the Chargers, I think like Justin Herbert obviously out for the season. At least they can look to the future now because this coach is going to be out. Most of this coaching staff is going to be out by the end of the season. If the owner has any sense left in them. And hopefully a better hire will be made, and hopefully they're looking at a better future. They have the talent. They have the superstar quarterback. Somehow they've managed not to get anything out of him. Hopefully in the future they will. So as a Chargers fan, I just want to rebuild. I want to lose every game, get like Marvin Harrison Jr., someone draft like real high, and rebuild this team, or get maybe an offensive line or, God forbid, a defense, and come back strong hopefully next year, now that we know that the Chiefs are not unbeatable by any means as well. But for this season, definitely sucks because they have playoff aspirations and those are out the window. So I'm better than Chargers fans. I'm better than most fans, actually. Dare I say all of them, because my team is the one and only team currently in the NFL to have already clinched a playoff spot after Week 14, which I had to give a shout out. I am better than pretty much everybody. But there is more football to be played, and the Niners also have one big challenge coming up with the Ravens. I think that is next week, and we'll be talking about that. So it's not smooth sailing yet onto the 1 seed, but so far I'm looking pretty good. One thing that we do here, quarterback power rankings, because we're looking at because the season's drawing to a close now, the regular season that is. So we have to discuss about MVP again, and My take hasn't changed. I'm still going Purdy. I think he's played the best football out of anyone. He's leading the NFL in pretty much every stat imaginable. He's had another very great game against Seattle. One interception that was not his fault. Receiver ran the wrong route. And other than that, he had, again, a near perfect showing. Took Seattle apart in the second half. But then again, Dak Prescott also had a great game again. Soundly beat the Eagles, who've lost to both of those teams now in a resounding fashion. And if you want to be the quarterback purist, I believe at this point it's down to those two. And Tua put himself kind of in a like third place this week with a bad performance, with a loss for the Dolphins. So Tua's still my number 3, but there's a little bit of space at this point, I think, between Purdy, Prescott and the rest, and then Tua I'd have at 3. What do you think?
I think it's a 3-way race at this point, and I think Tua may have, although he didn't play horribly this past week, it wasn't good. He almost got outplayed by Will Levis, which doesn't look good for him. His 2 receivers go out, and all of a sudden there's no passing touchdowns to be found there. Still went 23 for 33, which is not a bad stat line, but no passing touchdowns. You kind of need those passing touchdowns if you're going to be the MVP. They did it all through the ground game, and I guess they were wanting to play it safe. Still didn't work out. The Titans got the win over them, unfortunately. But I think right now there's a 3-way race between Purdy, Lamar, and I hate to say it, Dak, because they did get the win over the Eagles, so I guess I will give them that. As if they keep winning like that and they do go deep into the playoffs, I know it's a regular season award, but the playoffs count, in my opinion, because you never see any of the players win it who don't go deep into the playoffs. I think they absolutely factor it in, even though they probably shouldn't. We see that all across sports, but it happens that way. So I'm going to throw Dak in there. Reluctantly, I'm throwing Dak. This is a three-way race: Purdy, Lamar, Dak, and then there's a little bit of gap between Tua and Hurts there. We'll see if either one of those guys can come up with something spectacular to get back in the running, but right now it's kind of a bottleneck between those three.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Purdy, Tua, Purdy, Prescott, Tua, and then people for like the whole season have been talking about both McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill because they're having both outstanding, possibly record-breaking seasons. Still not entirely believing. I think if one of them is going to be the MVP, they have to break a record. Like they have to break a historic all-time record for a non-quarterback to even be considered. Could very well happen, but even if it does, they still could just be the offensive player of the year as opposed to the actual MVP because it's such a quarterback award now. But we will see. Maybe they decide to change it up this year, but I'm not believing it until we actually get there. Now, another game that we play here is guess the biggest spread, and that is before we get into the predictions here for Week 15, I have to ask you: can you guess the biggest spread out of all of the Week 15 games?
It doesn't look like there's a lot this week. Especially the way teams have played recently probably closed a ton of these gaps, which may have been bigger gaps earlier in the season. But here we are now with missing quarterbacks and elite teams playing bad and bad teams playing really well somehow. I think these games are going to be really close. If I can find one that stands out, actually, I'll go ahead and name the two secondary ones. The Eagles and Seahawks probably stand out. Like I said, teams have been playing bad even though they were elite, so that may have closed that gap a little bit. But the Eagles versus Drew Lock with the Seahawks, it should be a decent spread. There's also the Dolphins, who just can't quite blow out teams anymore, playing the Jets, who Zach is back, so that probably closed that gap a little bit because the Jets played really well. It has to be your 49ers versus the Cards.
Yep, certainly is. You're right about that. 13.5 points on the road, by the way. That's a big spread. It's an impressively big spread. And the only double-digit spread this week, actually. The Chiefs come close, but they're only 9.5 point favorites at the moment at New England. So, Niners, you got that one right. Now, we kind of discussed this off the air already, where we were counting that about only 2 or maybe 3 favorites from last week won. So I kind of dread to ask the question, but how did our predictions turn out?
Not good at all. Not good at all. And even worse for me. It was a little better for you than me. Out of all the games last week, I got 6. You got 7. We disagreed on 5 games. And the first 3 games happened, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get blown out
the
this
Bengals,
week.
I remember that. That was a good pick.
Yeah. Yep. I had the Colts, you had the Bengals. I had the Jaguars, you had the Browns. I had the Raiders, you had the Vikings. So after that, and we'll talk about that horrible game later, but oh my God, I didn't think anybody was going to win that. I thought that was going to be a scratch, and we would break even, but I went out on a limb and picked the Bills over the Chiefs and picked the Cowboys over the Eagles. So it saved me from losing too much ground. The total for me this past week was 6. The total for you was 7, bringing our overall total 123 for me and 122 for you.
And still keeping us at pace for a historically bad season, prediction-wise, obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah, that really hurt us because we were making up some ground a couple weeks ago, and here we are back again.
It's incredible that it at the end of every regular season, it's like it becomes like this head-to-head race. It gets really close between the two of us. But if one of us is bad, we're both bad that season also. Yes. It's never going to be 140 to 120. Never happening somehow. No. I don't know why. No idea. This year we're just both really bad. We'll see if we can make up for it here this week, Week 15. It's about time to put some scores on the board. But I find these actually pretty hard, a lot of these games to predict. So we'll start off with the Thursday night classic divisional tank bowl, Chargers at the Raiders.
Yeah, this has to be a tank bowl now, right? Think about the Chargers having that 6-0 stinker against the Patriots a couple weeks ago, and now we have the biggest stinker of the entire season. This 3-0 game that the Raiders put up and came out on the losing end of that. Wow, this is going to be a horrible game. This might also be a 3-0 game. I mean, you have Justin Herbert out for the season. And, the Raiders can't even put up points in a game. Like, what is going to happen here? Why is this on an island? This is the worst game of the season. It has to be. I mean, Jesus Christ. I don't even know who to pick. I think since this is going to be a 0-3 game, I'm going to just pick the home team, and I'll take the Raiders here for no good reason.
I'm also taking the Raiders because it's the home team because Justin Herbert's out. The Chargers scored like an average of 6 points with Herbert. They'll probably score an average of 0 without him. It's looking rough. I don't know if Brandon Staley is going to be there. I don't know why he is still there. He's not going to be there after the season, I have to assume. But I don't know if it's like a week-to-week thing or if they'll just let him finish out the season or whatever, then start looking. I'm not sure. But Chargers need a revolution going. Raiders probably also will because they already fired a coach during the season, so 2 absolute dumpster fires. I'll take the Raiders, an extremely low-scoring game. The over-under here is 34. I don't believe it for a second. I'm taking the under on that any day. I have a bold prediction for this one, though, because we have 2 candidates for Defensive Player of the Year going against each other here, which is probably the most exciting part of this game. So my bold prediction is that both Khalil Mack and Max Crosby will get 4+ sacks in this game. Take advantage of the inexperienced quarterbacks and completely incompetent offenses. So defensive showdown for both for both these teams. Vikings at the Bengals.
Yeah, another backup quarterback bowl. The backup bowl here. I don't know if we can say tank bowl for this one because the Bengals look like they really want to win something. And they think Jake Browning can do it. And Jake Browning is playing really well. I don't know. Like, it feels like there's 1 or 2 of these guys that come along each season through the past few seasons. I remember back when if the backup came in, your season is over no matter what. But here we are. We have seen backup quarterbacks play like superstars recently. Now, will Jake Browning turn back into a pumpkin like we saw on the other side of the game with Josh Dobbs? He's going to be out for this one. He has played so bad after playing so well that we're going to see Nick Mullins start this game. It's going to be Nick Mullins versus Jake Browning, so I'm going to go with what we know, that Jake Browning is capable of running this offense, and I will take the Bengals at home.
Jeez, it's not as easy for me because I also know, being a Niners fan, I remember that Nick Mullins is also capable of running an offense. And frankly, I have no idea why he didn't get a chance to start after the Niners traded for Jimmy Garoppolo, and he got benched and traded away. And I also have no idea why the Vikings panic traded for Josh Dobbs to start him over. Like, yeah, one of the better backups in the league. Nick Mullins should be a capable quarterback. But of course, Jake Browning's already proven it twice. Luckily for me, I invested in them last week. He's done it. So given they're at home, I'm also taking Jake Browning, taking the Bengals to get it done. The Vikings looked, of course, terrible last week, and no one looked good in that game at all against the Raiders. So I'm taking the Bengals, get it done at home there. And yes, back up. Oh, sometimes you even get a third string quarterback was good, and he takes you to the NFC Championship game, and he would have won it too if he didn't get hurt. But that's a different story. We have the Steelers at the Colts, which is also backup bowl, by the way.
Another backup bowl. Yeah, we got Gardner Minshew versus Trubisky. I'm wondering, do we see Rudolph before Christmas, or do we wait until Christmas because his name is Rudolph? We need Rudolph to come in and save the team at some point.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we need another immaculate reception on Christmas from Rudolph. That'd be perfect. Yeah, but as for right now, the Steelers have been playing bad, and the change of quarterback didn't really help any. Unfortunately, the Colts lost a heartbreaker there. So it kind of makes it tough, but I'm still going to say I'm going to stick with the momentum. I mean, even though the Bengals easily disposed of them, I don't know if it is momentum anymore. But I think I still believe in Gardner Minshew over Mitchell Trubisky. And since this is in Indianapolis, I will stick with the Colts at home.
It's a really tough one for me to pick because I like the Steelers' defense to probably force some turnovers and make big plays. T.J. Watt's another candidate, maybe currently the favorite for Defensive Player of the Year, impact-wise. But of course, offensively, the Steelers team is completely imploded with Kenny Pickett. They've just set a historic NFL precedent of, I think, for the first time ever, losing back-to-back games to 10-loss teams. Which, if you believe it or not, they're horrible and they can't score at all. So I'll also take the Colts here in this one, given they're at home. But man, this is a sad state of affairs. These first 3 games. Mm-hmm. Wow, it's the whole Friday. These are Saturday games. I mean, man,
not a starter in all of them.
Not a starter. Not one starter. Awful. Let's get into this. This is another Saturday night game. Here we have the Broncos and the Lions, the rare starter bowl.
Yeah, the starter bowl. Veteran starters, too. Both of these guys have been in the league for quite some time at this point, and both of them have played in Super Bowls. Very rare to have that happening this season after what we've seen. So this should be a classic right here. The Lions, there's something wrong there. Like, this team was so dominant and so good on offense and defense early in the season, and it feels like they have taken a few steps back. Now, I expected that game to be close, but I picked the Lions to win. It turns out it wasn't all that close, and the Bears were just much better than the Lions. I don't know, maybe the Lions are just not traveling well or something, so this might help that they get back to Detroit and put it together. But my post-type sleepers, as I predicted, won again, and I think they continue to win, and I think the momentum here is going in 2 different directions, so I'm going to stick with the upward momentum and take the Broncos on the road.
Yeah, it's a very good point. For me personally, I have to disagree because I believe in the good in humanity, and I will take the Lions to win this one at home against Denver. This has to be like divine intervention kind of situation because Denver is a game away from leading the division with how weak Kansas City's playing at the moment, and that team seems to be imploding on itself, so they need a little bit of help. Of course, Justin Herbert injury is one thing, Garoppolo injury is another, and of course, the Broncos now suddenly the one team actually still having a shot in the AFC West. So I'm taking the Lions to get it done at home. They don't want any of that smoke in their division because the Packers aren't done yet, even though they have just lost. So yeah, give me the Lions to win at home. 5-point favorites. It almost seems optimistic to me. I would make this a 2 or 3 point game. If I had to set the odds for this one for a sports book, because like you said, the Broncos have the momentum, the Lions certainly don't, but I have to believe that they're the better team and ultimately the more consistent offense, so I am going with Detroit. Your Falcons at the Panthers.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed at the way that game turned out because that was not Desmond Ritter's fault. Yes, there was one interception in there, but as we see, every quarterback is throwing interceptions these days, so I can't hold that against him. Desmond Ridder played probably one of the best games of his career and still came up with the loss. Now, a lot of that is ref ball. If you watch that fourth quarter, the Falcons' defense, although they were not good through the entire game, they could not get anything done because every stop they made had a penalty. There was a fumble that wasn't called a fumble somehow. I think it was Rachaad White had lost the ball and it was clearly on the ground, but apparently it wasn't on the ground somehow. And then there were flags thrown that were just picked up because it happened to be on the Bucs. I don't know why the refs needed the Bucs to win that game so bad, but they pulled it out. And Desmond Ridder, with 20 seconds left or whatever in the game, marched right back down the field and almost pulled off the Hail Mary. There was, 5 yards short Hail Mary shot.
Right? He threw it in front of the end zone for some reason.
I don't understand that. If Drake was the only one that he could really trust, and he just had to get rid of the ball at that time, so he just threw it to wherever Drake was. I mean, I would have tried to put it in Kyle Pitts' hands or something. But I don't understand it. You should have threw it in the end zone. I get it. And maybe he just thought that Drake was going to beast mode right into the end zone. We almost did it. We didn't, though. I'm not going to hold that against them too much because the Falcons absolutely played well for a giant portion of that game. There were some bad moments. And I'll still say there is a huge similarity when you watch Desmond Ridder play and Jordan Love. They both have really bad moments in their games. They both have really good moments. They're both showing flashes. Who knows if either one of them will be playing next season as a starter, but maybe Desmond Ridder has less of a shot at that than Jordan Love does. But here, the Panthers are really bad, and they can't beat anyone. I don't know anyone in the league right now, except for maybe some of these, the Chargers without Herbert or something. You know, the Raiders putting up 0 points. Maybe they can beat them. But to make it a little shorter, I am picking the Falcons on the road.
Yeah, I'm picking the Falcons too. It's a must-win game, right? And we said last week was a huge opportunity to run away with this division if they won against the Bucs. If they won back-to-back games against the Saints and Bucs, that have been huge. And instead, because as you've said, that narrow loss, now 3 teams are suddenly tied for first and nothing's clear. So it's kind of back to the drawing board for Atlanta as well, and this starts with finishing up the division here against Carolina. They have to win this game if they want to keep afloat, and I believe they're able to, because Panthers are just probably the worst team in football. Curious to see what the Panthers do when the draft rolls around, because they'll be picking top 3, and curious to see if they trade it away or if they pick another quarterback and just have the 2 young guys battle it out, but we will see. Bears and the Browns.
Man, this is a tough one for me to pick because I think the Bears are better than you think they are. And
I think the Browns are better than you think they are.
I think so, actually. I mean, I didn't believe that Flacco could come back in and play at an elite level, but he has shown that he has. He was able to, at least against the Jaguars. Now, I don't know if that's something of the Jaguars' defense or if he's back to normal. I mean, he looked really good in that game. Then again, so did the Bears playing against the Lions, who have a decent defense. And Justin Fields looked on in that game. DJ Moore went bananas in that game, even as a running back. He looked like Deebo Samuel out there. DJ Moore is a special player, and that might be the heartbeat of that team. If they can keep the ball to him and Cole Kmet more often and keep it a little less out of the hands of your running backs, you might be better off there. And Justin Herbert is playing well enough to get wins in certain situations. It makes it a tough pick, though, because both of these teams feel like they're on an upswing. I know the Browns maybe have a little more to play for than the Bears, but I'm going to say that the Bears come back down to, the Browns come back down to earth in this one. I'm going to pick the Bears on the road, and you're going to disagree.
Wow. The Browns won me a point last week, and I'm going to trust them to do it again. Give me Cleveland. The Bears have that record that they have for a reason, which is just major inconsistencies all over the place. And a bad matchup for inconsistent play is traditionally a very good suffocating defense, which is what Cleveland has and which is what is keeping Cleveland in games and winning them games. Joe Flacco is just a veteran at quarterback who kind of knows not to mess up. They lost their best offensive player for the season. They lost their quarterback for the season, and somehow they're keeping themselves afloat. And they have to, given how competitive the AFC is looking, and this is a must-win game. So Cleveland at home gets it done. I'm confident in this one, and I want this point for sure. I don't want the Bears to take any more points from me. So I'm going Cleveland. Bucs and Packers.
Yeah, the Packers, like I said, look a lot like the Falcons these days, especially in the quarterback situation. And if you could switch jerseys with Jordan Love and Desmond Ridder, and you wouldn't notice the difference. But unfortunately, they're playing the Bucs right here, who just got the win over Atlanta. I feel like that game is going to go fairly similar to what just happened with the Bucs and the Falcons. I think that's going to be a mirror image game. But do the Packers actually pull it out at the end? I'm going to say that hero ball is going to fail in this one. I know he's going to pull it out, and he's probably going to get him a little rushing touchdown somewhere. But I think Baker goes down finally, and I'm going to enjoy watching him go down. I'll be picking the Packers at home.
All right. I will also take the Packers at home, even though I like this Jordan Love Desmond Ridder comparison. I think you have a very good point there. and play very, very alike in their style and also in the way that they make mistakes, and sometimes they show flashes. I don't think the Bucs can repeat this kind of performance. I think this is the first time probably since week 8 that they're playing in an actually cold climate as well, which is something we shouldn't disregard. They've been playing in the South a lot. They just got done playing Carolina and Atlanta. Of course, in Florida, it's warm. So now they're going to Green Bay. I think it's going to favor the Packers. The weather conditions potentially very hostile. And the Packers, not to mention, just came off of a game that they'd like to forget about pretty quickly. So given that they are also playoff aspirants in their division, or rather for wildcard spot with how the Lions are currently looking, I think Packers get it done. I think I do believe in them kind of getting back on track. Even though they are inconsistent, that would speak for them because now they have to have another good game to make up for what just happened to against the Giants. So Packers get it done. Jets and Dolphins.
Yeah, Zach is back. Yeah. I mean, I kind of felt like he was going to, I kept hearing in the media all throughout the week about how Zach did not want to come back. He didn't want to be the starter. And that kind of made me feel like, okay, something's brewing here. That maybe this is all like a smokescreen or whatever. That Zach is going to come back and ball out somehow. I didn't think they could do it against the Texans. The Texans were red hot. But they did. This entire team came back and stomped out the Texans. And unfortunately, the Texans have darker days ahead, but the Jets maybe have some brighter days ahead. Unfortunately, this is against the Dolphins. This is in Miami. I don't think the Jets get the win here, and I'm disappointed in the Dolphins in their play recently and how they're not able to edge out teams that are around 500 or more. But I have a feeling that they can do it right here. I'm going to be taking the Dolphins at home, even without the star wide receivers. I think that Tua gets it done on the backs of the running backs.
You'd hope he get it done on the backs of running backs, or generally get it done against the Jets. This is a lot closer than you would think, because the Jets just had this great performance blowing out the Texans, and the Dolphins had this big letdown, plus a shorter week coming into this one. They have to hold it at home, and Buffalo is like, objects in the mirror, because they just beat the Chiefs unexpectedly, and they've already beaten the Miami before. So I don't think the Dolphins want to get into a situation where they were last year, which is what Mike McDaniel even talked about on Hard Knocks. They came into December 8-3. And they lost like 4 or 5 in a row and had to battle for the 7th seed. Definitely not a situation they want to be in. They want to have a home playoff game, and how good they are, they should definitely have one. Must-win game. I'm going to say they get it done. Just a higher class team overall, but Zach Wilson did have the best game of his career, and if he can do that again, it's going to be a close one. Because we know the Jets' defense is good. And the Dolphins are not going to lay 70 on them. That only happens against exceptionally bad teams, and the Jets are not one of those. So Dolphins win, and I'm not fully convinced though. And by the way, if you need someone else's word for this game is closed in the sports books. There are no odds. You cannot bet on this right now. It's just not open for betting, because I think no one knows how to evaluate this yet. Give it another couple of days and maybe something will come up, and I'm expecting something along the lines of Dolphins -5, -6 maybe, but not more than that given last week's results. Giants and Saints.
Yeah, and those missing receivers who were the heart of the offense there. Yeah, Giants and Saints. Carr was out there playing. I did not expect that. I expected to see Jameis out there, but Carr somehow is toughing it out, trying to do his best Matt Stafford and play through these injuries. But is it just me, or does Tommy DeVito look like a legitimate starting quarterback? Like, this guy came out of nowhere, and maybe there is something to that Heisman thing that you were talking about. Like, yeah, it's a lower level conference, but this guy may have been that good. Maybe for some reason he did not make it to the Power 5 in the end, but he is still a star that was just overlooked badly at that. I mean, it's third stringer right here. He's playing very well. He might just play himself into a starting role, either with the Giants, I know that big contract they have, but you never know. Or, he could be somewhere else starting next season. The guy looks legit. Makes it tough here. because I don't know if they can continue that. And I've seen too many of these backups turn back into a pumpkin after a few good games. So I'm going to go with the old faithful. As much as I hate it, I will be sticking with Derek Carr and the Saints at home.
Yeah, this is a difficult one, right? I've had very hard times picking the Giants games all year, especially after they looked good the previous week, because we knew what they were last year, and they were a playoff team, and we thought they'd be competing for potentially a bye week this year, a first round bye, and they should be looking good. They should be in the mix for this division, up there with Philadelphia and the Cowboys if they had remained on that trajectory, but they just fell off a cliff coming into the year somehow, and there's no way to explain it. Of course, Daniel Jones' injury has done its fair share to contribute to that, but still, the entire team seems worse than they were, and I just don't know why that's the case. For the Saints, this is a must-win game, obviously, because the divisional race is heating up, with the Falcons, the Bucs, and the Saints all tied at the moment for the lead. So one of those teams is going to play in the playoffs at home. Fair to say, none of them deserve to, but one of them will. And just like the Falcons playing at Carolina, I think the Saints will consider this a must-win game. And given the fact that Derek Carr is toughing it out and he's coming out there, and even Jameis Winston is a very capable backup to low-tier starter, I'm also picking the Saints. I'm not trusting the Giants' consistency at the moment at all. They just fluked out a miracle win, or maybe they played better. That's fine. They played better than the Packers. But I don't think they'll do it consistently, because the season form's over, and we'll see what they do in the offseason. But the Saints have more of that consistency, which comes into matter more and more as the season progresses, and we're now getting into the final quarter of the regular season. This is where the better teams, the best teams, start getting better, and I think the Saints are going to win this one. Now, here's an interesting one, given last week's results as well. Texans and Titans.
Yeah. Before last week, I would have looked at this and said, yeah, Texans by 12 at least. Like, there's no way. The Texans are on fire, but that flame was easily extinguished. Along with other things happening in that game, the quarterback is gone, and Davis Mills will be returning. And the last time we saw Davis Mills starting, it was not pretty at all. Hey, the Titans and Will Levis. I mean, technically a backup too, so we still got backup Bulls here. I think he's progressing. He looked really good against the Dolphins, in my opinion. And like I said, he almost outplayed Tua in that game. And we know he doesn't have the weapons that Tua has. So this guy might progress, and he might be the long-term starter there. We will see, but we know Davis Mills is not the long-term solution of anything. They're just waiting for CJ Stroud to come back next season. I will be taking the Titans at home.
Wow, he takes the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
Man, do we know that CJ is out for sure, by the way?
Yeah, from what I saw, I'm going to check.
He's out? Okay, so
I'll check
I know
to
he's
sure, though.
he's still in concussion protocol sometimes. Those things miraculously miraculously clear up by Saturday afternoon.
I saw a blurb that said Davis Mills is starting, but let me make sure.
So we're going to assume that's the case.
Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's a tough one. That makes it tough. That definitely downgrades the Houston Texans, and Will Levis is apparently upgrading the Titans, so that makes it a very, very difficult one to pick.
Mm-hmm. All I see on Sleeper right now is CJ Stroud remains in concussion protocol, but this was from a day ago. They don't have anything from today.
Okay. So we'll probably for certain we know on Friday, a Thursday or Friday. Mm-hmm. For now, though, I'm gonna have to put my faith in the Texans' defense here. I think they can win a low-scoring game. They have defensive-minded head coach. They have a superstar in the making rookie pass rusher, Will Anderson, who is in line to win potentially defensive player or the defensive rookie of the year. The Titans' offense, while good, went explosive, and they just showed it. And they had this incredible comeback against the Dolphins. They don't necessarily play consistently as you would expect from a rookie quarterback. That's not a sin. But also, I think that had this 1 in 1,000 miracle comeback not happened last Monday night, we would not really be talking about the Titans being favorites or winning this game. I think it's a big momentum thing that people are taking into. Oh, they just beat the Dolphins. They did. Credit to them for beating the Dolphins. But they're not the kind of team that will consistently beat the Dolphins, or a team like the Dolphins. They win 1-10, and this happened to be the one. They rolled high. It happens. I think the Texans are better roster top to bottom. They've showed it this year, even though they are now decimated by injury. And CJ Stroud didn't look like anywhere near himself last week without Tank Dell catching the ball. I'm going to trust this defense for Houston because they have too much to lose. They have a playoff spot in sight. Currently, they're tied, I believe, with 3 or 4 other teams for the 7th seed in the AFC, something like that. It's close. It's tough. You have Buffalo in there. They are rising and quickly approaching their best form. You have, surprisingly, Cincinnati in there with the backup quarterback. So you have to find a way to get it done. This is a spot where even the backup has to find a way to win against a subpar team. And I think the Texans get it done on the road in a very important one. Chiefs at the Patriots.
I will say that I would have picked the Texans if I knew CJ Stroud was going to start. But from all the reports I'm seeing right now, it looks like Davis Mills is going to be starting. There is none that is 100% definite, but most of them are projecting Davis Mills.
I'm assuming Davis Mills starts, and I'm still picking them.
Okay. All right. There you go. Chiefs and the Patriots. Wow, this is tough considering what happened last week, right? Because the Patriots surprisingly beat up on the Steelers. A 3-point win is beating up on the Steelers for the Patriots. They were putting up that 0-point stinker in a few games recently, and they're only 3-10 right now. They had no business beating the Steelers like that, but Ezekiel Elliott said, "Hold my beer, I'm going to beat these fools," and he did. So the Patriots are not exactly pushovers at this point, and the Chiefs are not elite anymore. There's something wrong with the Chiefs. Unfortunately, this is not the team that we saw over the past 3 to 5 seasons, however long it's been since really Alex Smith, when he got there, is when not really when he got there, but his last 2 seasons that Alex Smith started for the Chiefs, this team has been elite ever since then. It's not right now. I get it, they're still 8-5, they're still leading the division, but this team does not look like an elite team. They should still beat the Patriots. I'll say that. I'm not that confident in it as I should be. But they should, because the Patriots don't have a reason to be winning. Unless it's for pride. I don't know. What do you get out of beating the Chiefs? Nothing, but you get to say you beat the Chiefs. I'm going to stick with the Chiefs on the road. But I'm not so sure about it.
Yeah, it's a lot of these games where we say, we're not so sure because the favorite just played bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely true. And the underdog just played good or just won. I don't know how good you can really say you played if you beat the Steelers. How can I pick it? But they did. So we have to give that credit as well. The Chiefs are currently beating themselves in terms of mental game. And all the nonsense that happened after that game with, blaming the refs. And I can get it to a certain degree from a player. Maybe not for Mahomes, who's a 2-time league MVP and has been there for a while. I cannot, by any stretch of the imagination, see it from a coach like Andy Reid, who's been in the league since like the 1980s. When a receiver is 1.5 yards offsides, to demand that the ref tell him, the ref basically make sure he does not commit a penalty. That's not how it works. But there is no rule that forces a ref to say, "Hey, listen, someone's lined up offsides. Let's not snap this ball and make sure everyone's right, so we don't have to throw a penalty." As a receiver, you get the privilege to look to the line judge and let him and get his best estimation. Are you kind of lined up right? And by the way, you could also just look inside and take a look at the ball, and you'd notice if you're that far offside. So for Andy Reid to come out and bash the refs in a press conference, when the Chiefs by no means are a disadvantaged team when it comes to calls anyway, is a very, very strange situation to me. And Patrick Mahomes going completely crazy on the sideline. By the way, this might be the first time they've lost back-to-back games since the Reid-Mahomes era began in Kansas City 5 years ago, which is also a crazy stat. But 8-4, Broncos knocking on the door, and they're imploding from the inside. It's the Patriots. Of course, I'm picking the Chiefs, but I'm picking the Chiefs only because they're playing one of the best teams they could have wished for just now, which means one of the worst teams or least capable offenses. They probably have to score one touchdown and they should win this game if you're Kansas City. But playoff-wise, like looking forward, and you still have some tougher games ahead, they have to get their head back on straight, because this is not the way that a reigning champion and multiple-time MVP and Hall of Fame coach are supposed to act when you're 8-4 and you lost 2 games back to back. So don't like to see it. Let's hope it's, or not, I don't even know about hope. Maybe a lot of people have probably lost sympathy for the Chiefs after this week, but for them, it's important to have this be a get-right game and get their heads back into the game and get it right. So I'm saying they get it done. They catch a break by being able to play New England. However, if they lose, everyone's in trouble. If the Chiefs lose this one, we've got civil war about to break out in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a mess, especially against New England. So I'm saying they win, but they better win, and they are favored. But yeah, it's time to put up. Niners and the Cardinals.
Yeah, a lot of things, man. That was a bizarre lineup there. Kadarius Toney could easily look at the ball and see where he's at, but
not even close.
Yeah, and it was almost like he asked the referee, "Was I lined up?" Like before he even got to the line of scrimmage. Like he was still moving forward after he asked the referee.
Yeah. These guys walk up to the line with their like fist extended as if to signal, like as they jog into their spot.
Yeah.
And then they just like take 2 more steps forward and stand there. That's not how it works.
Exactly.
That's not how it works.
Yeah, so bizarre. But they have the Broncos knocking on the door, and the Broncos have already beaten them this season, so better watch out. 49ers and the Cardinals. There is nothing to debate about this. 49ers, best team in the league. Cardinals, one of the worst. They're right down there with the Panthers. Excuse me. Right down there with the Panthers. And also, their quarterbacks share a similar stature. So they have that in common also with the Panthers. 49ers are going to win this one on the road.
I totally 100% agree with that. Niners win on the road, 13.5-point favorites. They have made a point out of sweeping this division time and again, and they're going to do it again. Brock Purdy still on his MVP year. Just took care of the Seahawks, and Arizona should not be a big challenge, so the Niners are going to get it done at Arizona. We have the Washington Commies at the LA Rams.
Yeah. The Commanders coming off of a bye. Maybe they're good and rested. This should be an interesting game, as a matter of fact, because I feel like both of these teams still have wild cards to play for, but the window is closing quickly. One of these teams have to have a win here. Both of them have to have a win if they want to do anything, but only one of them is going to get the win, unfortunately. And I still think the Rams with Stafford healthy is better than the Commanders. I think it's going to be a close game, may even be a shootout in the end, but I will be taking the Rams at home.
Give me the Rams as well. Washington slowly but surely dropped down to be one of the bottom 5 teams in the league. After a pretty promising start, they were around 500 for a while. Inexplicably traded away all of their defensive stars and fired their defensive coordinator because he didn't produce. Oh, wonder. And I guess Ron Rivera's head is on the chopping block coming the offseason. Of course, new ownership, and they're going to revamp everything. And expect kind of dark times ahead unless Sam Howell turns into a Justin Herbert-like superstar in his second year. This franchise is going to go through some dog days, but I'm not complaining. However, I would appreciate if they could get it together one more time and beat the Rams for me, because they're kind of stringing together a couple too many wins. Luckily, they got beaten by the Ravens in overtime last week, but they played well, and it's not something I love to see because Niners have to play them one more time. I don't want that to be any sort of them trying to play spoilers or even contending for a spot. Of course, the Niners have clinched the playoffs already, but don't want the Rams to catch too much momentum and might make a playoff push is basically what I'm saying. So I would appreciate if the Washington Commanders were able to win it, but I'm not taking them. I'm taking the Rams to win at home. The Cowboys at the Bills in the game of the week.
Yeah, this has to be the game of the week right here. And I think it's going to be a lot closer. I know probably the Cowboys are favored, even though they're on the road, just because they have won so much recently and the Bills have struggled in the past. But they are coming off of a huge win over the Chiefs. And this is going to be in the frozen upstate New York there, which the Cowboys are used to playing in the South and indoors. They're going to be frozen out there, and the Bills are going to be used to this climate. They play in a blizzard at least once a season. Well, that would be nice if this was played in a blizzard. Remember the LaShawn?
I'm ready for snow games.
Yeah, the LaShawn McCoy game a few years ago. Yeah. Yeah, we need more of that. Yes. In that case, if that does happen, I am definitely all for the Bills winning this game because they usually win those games. And the Cowboys need to be taken back down to reality at this point in time. I'm going out on a limb, I guess, because I assume that the Cowboys are favored. I will be taking the Bills at home.
Somewhat paradoxically, as the passing game gets more difficult to execute in bad weather, the Bills become even better because not that Josh Allen is a bad passer, but because he's such a dominant runner from the quarterback position. He's always good for a touchdown or two in games like this. And I don't know what the weather forecast is, but it is around Christmas and it's Buffalo, New York. Mm-hmm. It's going to be bad. That's what we know. It'll be cold. The sun is not shining because it's a late window game already. It's going to be cold. It's going to be dark. It's going to be potentially snow. The Cowboys, obviously, I will not sit here and criticize the Cowboys. They just took care of the Eagles handily. They did what they said they were going to do, which is probably the first time since the 80s that a Cowboys team has backed up something they said they were going to do, and I will let them have that moment. However, I'm also picking the Bills to win this one at home, partially because I want to, because I don't want the Cowboys to win, because now suddenly they're vying for a number one seed, which I don't want them to have by any means, and also because I would love to see the Bills in the playoffs, because they are a playoff team. Caliber-wise, they're great, and we have just seen they can beat the Chiefs. They have beaten the Dolphins. This Bills team, once in the playoffs, are able to beat everyone that's put in front of them, and a team like that, I believe, should absolutely be in the playoffs, in my opinion, over a team like backup quarterback Bengals or the Browns with the third string quarterback, or God forbid the Pittsburgh Steelers that can't score points. So I hope the Buffalo Bills get in. They have a tough schedule to play. They already showed they can do it and can handle it against the Chiefs, so they are beating the Cowboys at home. Definitely game of the week, and I'm excited for it. Ravens and the Jaguars.
I somehow expected you to pick the Cowboys there. But you just hate them that much, I guess.
Never.
I looked up.
Never.
I looked up the forecast, and unfortunately, it's not going to be below freezing. But still, the Cowboys are used to playing in the South and in a dome, so there's that. Ravens and Jaguars. I feel bad for the Jaguars because they were on such a tear at certain points in this season, and then they have letdowns like they just had last week. And Trevor Lawrence's health is really showing here. And I'm not so sure that we're not going to see C.J. Beathard start this game. It's tough because the Jaguars had the future ahead of them to have injuries like this, but they are absolutely beat up at this point in time. I don't know. They may still make the playoffs, you would hope. But I don't know that this is their season in the end. They need to get healthy. Unless they can't get healthy for a playoff run. Maybe so. But this is the Ravens. The Ravens are absolutely right up there with the 49ers, the Cowboys, and all the under elite teams this season. So, I hate to say this, Jaguars, but the Ravens are coming to Jaguar to crush you guys. And Lamar's working on his MVP run here. So, I'll be taking the Ravens on the road.
Wow. I'll also take the Ravens on the road. However, I will admit I didn't follow injury news very closely last week. I had to look twice when Trevor Lawrence came out there. I had no idea he was going to start.
Yeah.
I did not expect him to play. And suddenly he's playing. Mm-hmm. And now we're asking ourselves the same question. Is he going to be able to play? Of course, didn't turn out the way they wanted to last week. And now the question is, do we rest him for a week? Bad time to make that decision because you absolutely need him against Baltimore. So if he's able to play, I believe he's coming out. Plus the rear view mirror thing, the same thing is true for the Jaguars, with the Colts and Texans both just one game behind now. And as we've established earlier in the show, both of these teams have a good chance to win this week. Both these teams should be favored, and this division could be in peril for Jacksonville, which we didn't think would happen halfway through the season. So must-win game, a high-quality game, as long as Trevor Lawrence participates in it. Assuming he does, it's a close one, but I'm taking the Ravens based on the risk that he does not. And also because the Ravens are just scoring at will at the moment. So Baltimore wins at Jacksonville. And we have Monday night, the Bird Bowl, Eagles and Seahawks.
Yeah. Drew Lock. Are we going to see Drew Lock out there this week? I probably so. I don't know. Either way, the Eagles are coming off of a couple of losses, and so are the Seahawks. So it's not a lot of hope for the Seahawks at all, especially if Drew Lock starts. And the Eagles need to use this as a get-right game. I kind of do enjoy seeing the Seahawks lose for some reason. You know, the adage that I always say that Pete Carroll always finds a way to win. When he doesn't, I kind of celebrate that. It makes me feel pretty good. And I don't even have any stake in the division like you do. I just like...
No, it's natural. It's natural instinct.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Normal. Yeah.
And I had to watch the Seahawks play the Falcons for many years right around that Super Bowl run. They kept matching us up every single season because they loved that Julio versus... Why am I forgetting the cornerback's name? The one that played for you guys also. Richard Sherman.
Yeah.
They loved that matchup so much that they would put the Falcons against the Seahawks every single season. But either way, the Eagles need to use this as a get-right game. I'm picking the Eagles on the road.
Yeah. Also, kudos to Richard Sherman now on Undisputed being the voice of reason to Skip Bayless's mad insanity every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Always great to watch those segments. Sherman's great, by the way, man. He's made for TV. Like he's even better than Shannon Sharp. He's amazing on that show. Love that guy. One of the most reasonable people you find in sports media most of the time, which is usually flooded by very very debatable. Loudmouth opinions, but he's doing a good job on that in that show. Mm-hmm. I'll say something that I almost never say, and I will follow it up with a reason. I'm rooting for Seattle in this game. The reason being is because after dispatching them last week, they are no longer a threat to the Niners. The Niners have clinched the playoffs. However, the Niners are currently the 1 seed. The biggest threat to that 1 seed, along with the Dallas Cowboys, who I still don't think are as big of a threat, are the Philadelphia Eagles. So if they could lose another game, and this is a good candidate too, because they just seem on very much a downswing, having gotten blown out on back-to-back games, which you don't expect from a reigning NFC champion, they drop a game behind those two top teams, and most importantly the Niners, so I would like that. I assume you, though also not liking Seattle, will actually be rooting for the Eagles, because the Falcons' wildcard chances kind of depend on that. They're both at the same record at the moment.
Yeah.
So those are also still in there. Yeah, I'm taking the Eagles to win it though. I'm picking them in the prediction. I'm picking the Eagles. One more time, by the way, if they lose another one and they lose it badly, I might seriously think about picking the Eagles going forward if it's really going to be like that. But they lost to two very good teams back to back. Seattle got beaten soundly by both Dallas and by San Francisco. So I think Philadelphia has to follow suit if they want to keep in the running as being taken seriously. And I'm taking the Eagles to get it done at Seattle. But I will cautiously be rooting for a Seattle win, which doesn't happen often, but this week it does. So that's our picks here. How many disagreements do we have this week?
Just 3 this week. We have the Broncos, Lions, the Bears, Browns, and the Texans, Titans.
Right.
I think all of those could go either way.
Yeah. I feel good about the Browns. I don't feel great about the other two. I think I have a coin flip with the Texans. Maybe I have 55% with the Lions. I like the Browns though. The Browns, I feel the Browns are. If I had to lock one, I'm taking the Browns. I'll lock them in because those are that's the one I have the most faith in for this week. But that's what we're looking at the moment. And I think at the end of the season, we really have to come up with a counter of how many teams have had to replace a starting quarterback this year. Because I cannot possibly imagine any other year where that's happened nearly as much.
And how many guys...
I mean, injuries.
Yeah, and how many guys came back in playing that we thought maybe were not even in the league anymore? Like, when I saw Easton Stick, I was like, are you serious? I didn't even know he was still on a team.
No, I didn't know Joe Flacco was around either.
Yeah. They signed him off the couch also.
Yeah. Oh, and Max Duggan is, by the way, now on the Chargers active roster.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense
another name
because they shipped him off to the practice squad, so...
Exactly.
That would be...
So if Stick has another, like, an absolute stinker, maybe we'll see Max Duggan closing out the season. That's a rookie that, you know, why not give him some playing time? Nothing to play for anyway.
Yeah, dual threat quarterback, you know, he came off of the bench in college and played really well and actually made a Heisman run out of it, so...
Exactly.
I would like to see that.
And one other fun fact in the same direction, in true Chargers fashion, like no other team could. They are currently the only team in the league with a point differential of exactly 0.
Wow.
Perfect. No other team. No one else. Most teams not even close. Chargers, only team at exactly 0.
Wow. Unfortunate.
Yeah. Definitely rough. So, yeah, well, we will see. For the MVP conversation that we brought up earlier, everyone who's watching this, you can go vote as well on the community page because it is getting into the end of the season. Last week, I've already, and by the way, I want to read some results here because last week I actually asked for almost all the awards because we're getting late into the season. I asked for the MVP, players, and rookies of the year. And just for you, Smokey, I want to go through the results that we have here, right? So in the MVP, we have a, to me, staggering 48% in favor of Tua. Still.
Wow.
After what Brock Purdy did. Only 11% picked Brock Purdy. That, to me, is a surprise. And I'm very curious to see that shift. If it will shift this week. Because both Brock and Prescott had more impressive games than Tua. So I would expect to see that percentage shift.
Yeah.
The odds makers certainly favor Prescott and Purdy at this point over Tagovailoa, so we'll see how that turns out. Now, I asked for Offensive Player of the Year, and we have Tyreek Hill with 68% leading and McCaffrey at 26%. Those are, I guess, the only two people that really anyone would consider at the moment.
Yeah.
No one else really got any reasonable amount of votes. I guess that's kind of along with our expectations. In the Defensive Player of the Year voting, though, we have... This is very on the side. We have no player with a majority. We have Myles Garrett leading T.J. Watt, Max Crosby, and Micah Parsons in that order. So I think anything could happen there. Maybe I have to add Khalil Mack or Danielle Hunter in there at some point. I can only ever put 4 people. But for this one, I think the defensive player is more wide open than the offensive player. Offensive player is between 2 guys. If one of them wins the MVP, the other one will be the offensive player. But either one of those 2 is going to win it. Offensive Rookie of the Year, unsurprisingly, CJ Stroud with 70%. A couple people pick Puka Nacua. We'll see if Stroud misses time. Maybe some things change there. And then Defensive Rookie of the Year. You predicted Jalen Carter to win before the season in your bold prediction. Or when we did our award prediction. And currently the people agree with you with 37%, which is close.
Yeah.
We're in front of Devin Witherspoon with 33%. But at the moment, Jalen Carter is the fan favorite to win it.
Yeah.
So what do you think about these awards? Do you have one of those where you like strongly disagree?
Not really strongly disagree. I think there is something to be said for Danielle Hunter, like you said, and Alex Singleton, you know, like these dark horses who have played extremely well this season. But yeah, it makes sense that Myles Garrett, probably because, you know, you mentioned Max Crosby, but the team's not winning. Myles Garrett, even though their offense is in shambles, that team is still winning. So there's something to be said for that outstanding play. I know you're not a Myles Garrett fan or anything, but
not exactly.
Right now, it looks like he might be the number 1 favorite, in my opinion.
I think statistically, it still has to be T.J. Watt. Like I don't see how Myles Garrett is the more impactful player,
sure.
And that's not. Yeah, I mean that's not even anything to do with like specifically not liking him. It's just what I'm seeing, right? Like.
I don't know. You still have that Mason Rudolph grudge going on now.
I do, but like, listen, T.J. Watt has TJ Watt has 14 sacks, Myles Garrett has 3. TJ Watt has 7 passes defense, Myles Garrett has 3. TJ Watt has an interception, which Myles Garrett doesn't have. And TJ Watt has recovered 3 fumbles, including one for a touchdown, which Myles Garrett has recovered 1. I don't know. I don't see the statistical argument for Myles Garrett, but TJ Watt also has more tackles than Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
I don't see the statistical
But,
argument
I mean,
for Myles Garrett. I don't.
The team is still winning, though, even though the offense is bad. And the Steelers are not really winning right now. I mean, you can say that their offense is beat up also, but they're not winning. But
that's a product of a whole defense, right?
Yeah,
also.
I mean, it is a whole defense. But if that's the case, then why are we not throwing CJ Mosley or someone in there, you know?
And they're separated by 1 game. I mean, Browns are 8-5, Steelers 7-6, and I'd argue the Steelers' offense is even worse than the Browns' offense. So that to me can make the difference. I don't know. I think this one's very close. I mean, this is also obvious bias. We have the sample size here is currently 266 votes. So that's of course not a huge sample size. We'll see how that develops over time. I agree with your take on Max Crosby, even though he is one of the most impactful and potentially best all-around defensive players, is because he's not only a great pass rusher among all these guys. He actually is the best run defender, has the most tackles, but the team success definitely overshadows it. If I had to fill out the ballot today, I'm giving it to TJ Watt for that interception and that all those touchdowns and fumble recoveries, in addition to being a sack artist. But to me, it's close. To me, it's close for sure. One thing I strongly disagree with is in the MVP, and given this is last week, but the fact that Tua is still the people's favorite, I can almost be fine with. But the numbers, him having 48% to Brock Purdy's 11, that to me is not right.
Yeah.
Because he's already the betting favorite last week. Brock Purdy was. So this somehow something's messed up. They're lagging behind there. So
yeah, they haven't caught on to the underdog story. See, I thought that Purdy was definitely going to get it after that because people love the underdog story. I saw this with Stetson Bennett for 3 straight seasons. So people absolutely love the underdog story. So
somehow they don't in the NFL because now pride is involved, right? All the media heads. Yeah, all the media heads who didn't predict Brock Purdy to be great coming out of college now have to tell themselves that he isn't, because to do any different would be to admit an oversight, which a lot of characters in this business aren't able to do. And the same is true for some scouts, of course, but I don't know. Maybe he needs a couple more seasons. If he wins an MVP, I mean, no one will be able to doubt him, I guess. Even then, people probably will, but maybe a couple more seasons.
And I think a lot of times, a lot of the viewers on YouTube are probably jaded by fantasy football also, and they know these types of trends don't work out long term, which I think is going to work out for Purdy. I think he's proven enough at this point that he's going to be a long-term success. I don't think we should be doubting it anymore. I did at first, but look at what he's done so far. So this might just be the guy. This might be one of those. I'm not going to compare him to Brady, but one of those Brady type situations where the late round guy actually works out. So there is that. I'm not going to say he's going to be the greatest or the second greatest quarterback of all time or anything, but it looks like he is a efficient, if not elite starter at this point. So
I mean, he was drafted later than Brady.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
And he's putting up better stats than Brady at the 4 now.
Somebody's gonna hate you for saying that, but
it's true. I don't care.
I haven't looked at the side by side in Brady's second season, but I wouldn't doubt it. By the way,
this whole we can look it up. What year was it? Can you tell me?
2001 or 2. Yeah, I think it was 02,
let's
right?
just see career stats.
Yeah,
let's see career stats. That's it.
Had to be.
You can find it.
Because year 1 he took over from Bledsoe.
Okay, year 1 that was just the 1 game. Year 2 he had a pass rating of 86.5. 86.5. Purdy right now is sitting at 116. Which is something that Tom Brady has done once.
Oh, wow.
Once in his entire life. In 22 seasons, Tom Brady has one season, of course, the famous 2007 season, with a passer rating of 117, which Brock Purdy is about to do in his first full year as a starter. Same.
All right, well,
Same.
Greatest player
And
of all
the
time,
weapons argument doesn't count either, because people now want to discredit Purdy for having good players around him. Name me a really good, successful quarterback in the NFL history that has not had weapons around them, like of that caliber. You could maybe come up with Phillip Rivers, Dan Marino, fine, but I mean, look at the players that Peyton Manning played with. Look at the players that Joe Montana and Tom Brady and all those great players played with. Maybe Aaron Rodgers you could name as not really having a whole lot of superstars around him, but. This is not something you can hold against the guy, right? Like, you can't. Patrick Mahomes won his first MVP with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. I don't know.
I'm not going to hate on Devontae Adams and Jordy Nelson, though. I thought they were.
I mean, they're good. Yeah, they're good, right? But like, he hasn't had them for like all of his career.
Yeah, what was he?
Like a couple.
Started with like Donald Driver, right?
Yeah, both of them for like a couple of years, but also most of the time just one at a time. Because when Devontae Adams came up, Jordy was already out of his prime. When Jordy came up, Donald Driver was out of his prime.
Yeah, true.
So he's never had the situation of like prime Debo, prime CMC, and prime Kittle. Or as Tom Brady had it with all those guys, with like Edelman and Welker, and then Gronk comes in, and by the way, Randy Moss. No, you can't hold that against the quarterback. I don't know why people try. I don't get it.
I gotta admit though, it does sound weird that we're ready to just throw him up there with Rodgers and Brady and Manning.
I mean, the thing that separates him from these guys is that he's played one full season, which is fine. I'm not saying if he retires today, he goes into the Hall of Fame. Of course not. It requires a body of work. What I'm saying is he is currently playing at the level that top Peyton, top Brady, top Rodgers are playing or have played. Maybe not top Rodgers. I think Rodgers at the top of his game, probably better than anyone we've ever seen. But Mahomes, maybe Mahomes too. Yeah. But he's up there. He's a top 3 quarterback in the NFL, and there is no reason to expect, based on nothing but his draft position, that somehow he is not going to continue to do it. He might not continue to do it based on a million different things. But not on his draft position, because the draft is over. He's in the league now.
Yeah. As a pocket
But that's what people hold against him.
Sometimes I like to think that the pocket passer is dead, and then you get a guy like this that comes along and is absolutely successful.
Most of the quarterbacks that come out and do well are pocket passers for the long term.
Yeah, but I know we like this year we're talking about C.J. Stroud, who is a pocket. He is a pocket passer. But he can move when he needs to. Like a lot of these guys.
So does Purdy. Purdy's picked up first downs. He's not a statue. Like, no one's coming out not moving. He can do it. He just doesn't want. He just doesn't try to.
Don't remember what his 40 time was. Was he up in like the 4.5s or something?
Purdy?
Yeah, I don't remember him being that quick. I think I would remember it if he was.
Probably nothing special at all. 4.84.
Okay, yeah.
4.84.
Yeah, he's a slower guy.
He's slow, but
like Jared Goff level.
Yeah, but it's enough. He gets it done if he needs to. If he's not gonna try to do it much if he can help it, and then nor should he. So that's completely fine.
Yeah, you don't need to. Yeah, you got Debo back there.
Exactly. Yeah, I got Debo. I got a lot of guys. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we'll see how it plays out. Maybe he will win the MVP.
I sure hope so.
If it's close,
If
it's close, I think they give it to him. Because, like I said, America loves the underdog story. The world loves a good underdog story, right?
I don't know, man. But this is sports media, man. These guys are guys are vengeful.
I will say, if like he had that lull in the middle of the season, 3 games, yes, that's the type of player where they're quick to go, there, see, we knew it. We knew he wasn't good.
Yeah,
that's going to happen because of where he was drafted.
And that was the defense that lost those games, too. And we didn't talk about that.
Yeah, which is weird in itself because that's one of the best defenses in the league. But
yeah, it's true. It was a blip on the radar. That's for sure. It happens.
If he finishes out the season strong, they're going to get behind him. They're going to be like, yeah, it's good to see Mr. Irrelevant win the MVP. There'll be all kind of headlines. Mr. Irrelevant, no more. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm still on that. I'm still on that train. But we'll discuss it every week now anyways, because the regular season is coming to a close. So it'll be it'll be a hot topic, and it's going to be a topic on every talk show for the rest of the season also, because NFL awards coming up. So right now I'm going Purdy, but we'll be talking about it more in the future as well. Again, you can go vote during the week. I might put up polls for all of these categories again, because I want to see how the developments turn out. I want to see what people think. So please go vote what you think about all these awards. Do we have anything to add for this week's games, Smokey?
No, I think that's it for this week.
Then I want to say thank you, everybody, for watching. Drop us a like, and we'll see you in the next one.
Deuces.
Check the scoreboard. Ha. Check.